Price of freedom is death. We're coming to get our check.
Black first, my brothers and my sisters. Welcome to the Afro Elite YouTube channel. I'm your host, Afro Elite. Now, we're coming closer to the polls. Joe Biden and the Democrats are looking very bad right now, and a lot of that is because of the fear of voter apathy. The polls aren't looking good for him. Black voters, which is who he needs to really win the election, are not looking like they're going to turn out for him. And a lot of that is due to the fact that we have been providing you all accurate information on Joe Biden's track record, what he was doing before he was the president, what he was doing before he was the vice president under the Obama administration, what he's been doing as he's been the president, the promises that he promised us and he broke, what he's been doing to other groups of people, his legislation that has led to a harmful situation and a lower quality of life for Black America. We've been informing you all on all of the facts. So now we're getting put into this list of disinformation, and they're saying that we've been misinforming Black voters. So they're trying to warn people to not listen to channels such as this and other channels that inform you all on the accurate information of politics and the reality of America. So we're going to look into this article and we're going to break this down. At least 40 million Americans may be regularly targeted and fed misinformation within Black online spaces by a host of sources across social media, fueling false information around the election, according to a new report published Tuesday. Touted as the first deep dive into understanding disinformation targeting Black America, the report, published by Onyx Impact, a nonprofit organization working to combat disinformation within the Black community, identified half a dozen core online networks, quote, reaching or targeting Black Americans online with false and misleading narratives. Conservative commenters like Candace Owens are among the most influential distributors of false information, according to the report, followed by a variety of sources, such as platforms geared towards Black manosphere, like the, quote, Fresh and Fit podcast. Now, let me just pause it real quick and say, we've been saying for years about Candace Owens. Now, what's interesting about this is that they're saying that Candace Owens is spreading false information, which she does all the time. We all know this, but they're saying she's spreading false information to Black voters. When you look at Candace Owens' biggest demographic, Candace Owens doesn't have a super large Black following on any of her platforms, and she never has. Candace Owens is not a very influential figure when it comes to information sources of Black voters. Black people don't tend to listen to Candace Owens in a large block like that. Now, does she have a big audience? Yeah, she does. She has millions of followers, but most of those followers are not Black. Most of them are white. We got to put that into context. Now, you're talking about Fresh and Fit. Fresh and Fit do not have a platform based off of politics. When they talk, they're mostly talking about women and, you know, being a man and all of that stuff. It has really nothing to do with politics at all, but they're putting all of this stuff in together. So some of the stuff they're talking about is you kind of raise an eyebrow and you kind of look like, huh, what are you talking about? Because you're bringing in Fresh and Fit when they don't talk on politics, Trump, Biden, voter apathy, or nothing like that. Not that they don't, not that there has not been videos where they have bought that up, but that's not what their platform is based off of. That's not what the manosphere's platform is really based off of. Now, it continues to say, some episodes of the show have outright challenged women's intelligence and allowed guests to share false and harmful narratives without pushback. The report identifies some platforms like the nationally syndicated radio show, quote, The Breakfast Club, as a, quote, gateway influencer, or an authentic online space that holds critical space for stemming the tides of disinformation. These platforms, however, are also often targets for, quote, bad actors to introduce harmful narratives, according to the report. Now, before we go on with that, a lot of the people in the Breakfast Club really is biased towards the Democratic Party. They're very biased. Charlemagne, all of them, they're very biased towards the Democratic Party. They allow a lot of Democrats to come up there. They do allow some conservatives. You had Ramaswamy up there, but for the most part, it's a lot of Democratic or liberal politicians to come up there. They even had Joe Biden up there, and Joe Biden's the one telling Charlemagne, if you don't vote for me, you're not black, and Charlemagne voted for him. So a lot of that, the Breakfast Club is really leaning towards the Democrats and leaning towards the liberals and all of that stuff. So it's very interesting that they say that, but listen to who they say they allow to give a platform to that spreads disinformation. Three other effective sources of disinformation, the report notes, are extreme black nativist and separatist, like foundational black Americans. So they're saying we're extreme black nativists and separatists. That's what they're saying foundational black Americans are. That's who they're saying we are. It says, like foundational black Americans who don't believe in the concept of Pan-Africanism and have stressed that people who are not descendants of enslaved people should not speak for or on behalf of black Americans, as well as health skeptics such as Riza Islam, an activist and self-proclaimed intellectual extremist who said without evidence that childhood vaccines, quote, destroyed the brain chemistry and led to autism and other disabilities. According to the CDC, this is not true. None of the other individuals or platforms listed above responded to requests for comment. Okay. So they're saying that Foundation Black Americans did not respond to a request for comment. Number one, there's a lot we got to say about this. Number one, Foundation Black Americans is the name of a lineage. That's it. You can't sit up here and say, well, Foundation Black Americans did not respond to a request for comment. You didn't send a request for comment. What you're doing right here is you're just saying, and I doubt that you sent Riza a response or a request for comment. You probably didn't send him that. You're probably just saying that, well, you didn't respond for a request for comment. So now that gives us the permission to say what we want to say and not get your input on it, because we claim that we requested your comment. You can't request the comment of Foundation Black Americans because that's a whole lineage. You didn't request the entire lineage's response or comment. Now, to what they said about spreading misinformation, first of all, to say that we don't believe in a concept of Pan-Africanism and we don't feel like people who are not from our lineage to speak on behalf of our lineage is not disinformation or misinformation. How is that dis or misinformation? That's true. That's accurate. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Us as FBA, we can't go anywhere else in the world. We can't go to a Nigerian country or an African country or a country in the Caribbean and speak on behalf of them. We couldn't do that. They wouldn't allow us to do that. That wouldn't be considered disinformation, nor would they consider that to be wrong if they stopped us from doing that. Just keep this in mind. They don't ever consider them to be wrong for saying that we can't speak on their behalf. When they come over here and they say, hey, we don't even want y'all at our carnival, when they say that, nobody says that they're wrong. Just keep that. Just remember that. Keep that note. Nobody says that they're wrong when they come over to our country and start celebrating their holidays and say they don't want us to even be in their holidays. Nobody says that they're wrong. Nobody says, what about Pan-Africanism? Nobody says nothing. But when we say, hey, this is our lineage, we have a very unique history. We've been through a unique grievance in this country, our people. So we want people from our own legacy, our own heritage, our own lineage to speak for our lineage. Now, all of a sudden, that's a problem. Now, all of a sudden, that's a problem. But it's not a problem when they do it. And even if that's our opinion, let's just say that's our opinion and somebody disagrees with that opinion. That doesn't make us an extreme. That doesn't make us an extremist. That doesn't make us an extremist. The same way it doesn't make anybody else an extremist when they do it. As well as that doesn't mean that we're spreading misinformation. If it's information that you disagree with, then it's information that you disagree with, but that's not misinformation. To say misinformation or disinformation, you're saying that we're saying something false. If we're saying that in our opinion, which is the fact, but if you're saying in our opinion, they shouldn't be speaking on our behalf, that's not misinformation. That's not something wrong. You can't label that as misinformation. And they shouldn't be speaking on our behalf. Now, when you say we're a separatist, we're not what you would say a separatist. No, we are here in this land and we're delineating. This is a necessary thing that we're doing. We're delineating from tethers who want to come in and create chaos. That's all we're doing, which is what we're supposed to be doing. There are some writers from the diaspora and we locked in with them and we rolling with them and everything is fine and copacetic. But there are tethers who have been coming in and they've been creating chaos. They've been misrepresenting us and they are a problem. And what we are doing is we're just delineating from them, which is what we should be doing, which is what we should have been doing for many years now. Now we're on the right page. Now we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. For you to call us an extreme separatist is kind of disingenuous, to be very honest with you. There's nothing extreme about it. We're doing something that all people of their native land do. Everybody does this. So we shouldn't be labeled as extremists for doing that. Now, when it comes to our brother Reza, I have not heard Reza say that exactly, that it destroys the brain, the whole thing with the vaccines, it destroys the brain chemistry. But I will say, for y'all to say without any evidence, all I know is that he brings a crazy amount of evidence, especially when he makes claims like that. Now, I haven't heard him say that specifically, but if he did say it, I'm very, very positive that he brought up so much evidence. He brought up so much scientific fact, not just his theories, not just, well, this happened to my cousin, so we know what it really happened. He brings up science. He brings up the brain chemistry. He brings up medicine. He brings up history. He does that all the time. So to be very honest with you, for you to say without any evidence, I just know that's a lie. I haven't even heard him say that. And by the fact that you say without any evidence, I know you're lying. If he did say it, then he has evidence to back it up. I'm very sure of that. It continues to say, the report also identified foreign actors, quote, that seek to influence U.S. political discourse, like the digital media company African Stream. African Stream denied spreading misinformation, adding that they, quote, present an authentically African perspective. I'm not very sure what African Stream is, so I'm just not going to really comment on that. It continues to say, quote, we have a vigorous fact-checking process, which means work is checked by 3 different trained journalists 3 times before posting on our platforms. The Nairobi-based company said in a statement describing their work as, quote, Pan-African digital media platform covering affairs concerning Africans at home in the diaspora. Like I said, I'm not familiar with this platform. I can't give you a comment on that, but that's what they're saying. But so far, this article has been lying on majority of who they're speaking on. So I don't know. Continues to say, Onyx Impact found those 6 sources collectively have a potential reach of nearly 41 million Americans, adding that each represents spaces where skepticism, anti-Black rhetoric, and deception of truth run rampant. For context, that figure is equivalent to nearly every Black person in this country, according to the latest census data. Now, I just want to, before we continue, just notice that they said foundational Black Americans, like foundational Black Americans is some type of organization, or foundational Black Americans are some type of group or something like that. Foundational Black American is a name for the lineage of people who are descendant from American chattel slavery. The Black folk who are descendant from American chattel slavery. That is who it foundational Black American is. Very simple. Is nothing you can sign up for. You're not a member of it. You don't get no card. You don't get. It's not a group where you can be put in and kicked out. It's not that. Okay. It's not like this is some type of ranking where there's a leader and then there's a second in command or a president or anything like that. So for them to say the sources, what do you mean? The sources is Black American. Black American equals foundational Black American. It continues to say, over 4 months, a team of researchers from Onyx Impact identified 2,500 online accounts creating, sharing, or amplifying disinformation to Black communities. The researchers also held 7 national focus groups of Black audiences to understand how those narratives were showing up in offline spaces. The point of the effort was to gauge the impact of the information, said the founder of Onyx Impact, Esosa Osa, an alumnus of the voting rights group Fair Fight. Okay, just notice that the founder of this Onyx Impact, who's doing all of the studies and everything like that, is a tether, which is no surprise to anybody, or at least it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, why she's so mad at foundational Black Americans, saying that we're extremists and we're nativist and we're separatists and everything like that. Yeah, we're separating from you because you're a tether saying that we're spreading false information, never stating what the false information is. You can't say what we're saying is false information. You can't even say what we believe in collectively, because all foundational Black Americans don't believe in the same thing, because it's just a lineage. Everybody in the lineage doesn't think the same way. But you can't say that's misinformation. But you want anybody who uses the term for FBA to be in this group of people who are online as false information spreaders or whatever you want to call them. You just told on yourself. She just told on herself as a tether. This is why we say we delineate from chaotic tethers who spread chaos and spread negativity in the community. It continues to say, constant repetition of false or misleading information, no matter how kind or absurd that disinformation is, said Osa, can be effective across audiences, regardless of income, education, or class. Disinformation works because the more times we hear something, the more likely we are to believe that it is true, she said. Narratives with the highest reach and impact across the networks, the report says, include misleading narratives focused on promises that these networks say President Joe Biden has broken civic engagement and issues that stoke division. So they're saying that we're spreading misinformation by telling the truth about Biden. Nothing. Now, I want you to keep in mind that they're not specifying anything that we're saying as disinformation. They're not correcting or debunking anything that we've said about Biden. They're just saying, well, these are the people to look out for, and everything that they say is just wrong, just everything, just anything that they say, just don't listen to it. Listen to me because I'm telling you the truth. Don't listen to them because they're not telling you the truth. They're not debunking anything. They're not debunking anything. They're just saying, well, they're saying Biden broke his promise. Well, did he keep his promise? Well, I mean, no, but they don't listen to them when they say he broke it. It continues to say, earlier this year, for example, Owens, they're talking about Candace Owens, tweeted without evidence that vaccines cause a, quote, explosion of childhood cancer. But experts, through data, have denied that any link exists. Another instance, Owens shared inaccurate information that the shooter that killed 21 people, including 19 children, at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas in 2022 was transgender, an assertion that was based on the wrong photos of the shooter. Now, of course, it's really easy to debunk anything Candace Owens says. We've been doing that for the longest time. Candace Owens is not taken serious in the black community. There's a very small handful of black folk that listen and take anything serious to what Candace says. Like, not just, oh, she's right sometimes. I'm talking about black people who like get their information from her. Like, when an event happens, they're looking to hear what she has to say about it. They're waiting to hear her report and analysis of the situation. Very few black people do that. They might see a clip here or there and say, well, that's something I can agree with. But they always say, I don't agree with most of what she says, but I can agree with this specific point. For the most part, black people do not listen to Candace. Candace does not have a black audience. Continuing, critics have also repeatedly slammed the popular gossip site, The Shade Room, for being a hub of disinformation, particularly on issues related to Biden. The outlet once reported about the Biden-backed program to distribute, quote, crack pipes to promote health equity. The site ran with an article by the Washington Free Beacon, a conservative website. The post quickly went viral, and the White House called it, quote, misleading and misinformation. In reality, the program was harm reduction program meant to reduce drug overdose. The Shade Room corrected the information in a follow-up post and took the original post down. But for many, the misinformation had already spread further than the truth. The Shade Room did not respond to a request for comment. Now, I did a video years ago when that article went around. There were people who got packages because the Biden administration were handing out packages and they were calling it harm reduction program for drug use. And people were opening up the packages and they were finding crack pipes in the packages. They were finding drug paraphernalia in the packages when they were, and it was on camera. They were receiving the packages, and in the packages was drug paraphernalia, crack pipes was in the packages. So they're saying, oh, that's misinformation, and that came from a conservative site. Okay, well, I mean, the people who got the packages, if it was misinformation, show us what's in the packages and show us that there were not crack pipes in the packages. Because they just say, oh no, it's misinformation. It was just a harm reduction program. Okay, well, show us what's in the harm reduction program. If we're incorrect and there were not crack pipes in those packages, why don't you just open up the packages and show us what's in the packages? And then you can correct us visually by showing us that there were not any crack pipes in the packages. But they won't do that. They're just going to say it's a drug reduction program, as if that's supposed to disprove the fact that there were crack pipes in the packages. It continues to say, the report noted that, quote, confronting the challenges created by misinformation is critical to ensuring the health and stability of our democracy. When it is left unchecked, experts said, disinformation can have a devastating effect on the most marginalized communities, including harming physical and mental health. Timothy Welbeck, a civil rights attorney and director of the Center for Anti-Racism at Temple University, said disinformation presented as fact has the highest ability to influence Black communities, discussion making in the ways never seen before, particularly less than 5 months from the presidential election. See, that's what they're worried about. That's why they're calling it disinformation or misinformation. It's accurate information. They're not saying anything we're saying about Biden is incorrect. They're not disproving anything we're saying about Biden to be incorrect. They're not saying that. They're saying they're panicking right now because they know that we're the source. When you're watching this right now, you're watching the source. This channel is the source. This is what they're afraid of. This is the source right here of truth and integrity that they're afraid of, that's spreading factual information that's giving you the truth, that's actually informing you and debunking and exposing all of the lies that they're trying to feed you. They're very worried. The presidential election is coming up, and we have more FBAs, foundational Black Americans, who are more politically informed and politically strategic than we've ever been. They're very afraid. It continues to say, quote, it can either encourage voter apathy or potentially encourage people to vote differently than they would have already, Welbeck said, noting that Americans' biggest issue, from the economy to Israel's war and Hamas to federal judicial appointments, will greatly be affected by who becomes president in November. In his eyes, a direct byproduct of how successful disinformation continues to spread. Yeah, a lot of that stuff is going to be affected. Voter apathy, and this is something I've been saying for about 2 years at the very least. They're more worried about voter apathy than they are about us voting for the Republicans. Because we don't need to vote for the Republicans to win. All we need is to drop their percentage points by a few, not that many. Not that many. We just need to drop it by a few, and the swing states will swing to red. It will swing to the Republicans. The Democrats will lose. And they know that. That's why they're saying all this stuff now, because they want to put us in a category so they can shadow ban us. And I've shown you time and time and time again how they do it to this channel. They want to shadow ban us. They want people not to listen to us. This is so they can have an excuse to start targeting our channels and targeting our platforms by saying we're spreading conspiracy theories and misinformation. Continuing, Onyx Impact offers strategic guidance in the report to those combating disinformation to engage with those platforms by identifying trusted messengers and discrediting bad actors. While there is no evidence that African Americans are more susceptible to disinformation than any other ethnic group, OSA said, consistent targeting of any group has a way of breaking through. Quote, Black voters are likely less susceptible to many disinformation narratives, giving their deserved higher levels of skepticism in institutions and government overall, she said. But just like other communities, when disinformation is targeted and comes from messengers with standing, it can be increasingly effective and dangerous. Polling shows that disinformation remains a concern for most Americans. A national survey published this month by the media reform group Free Press found that 79% of adults in the U.S. worry that what they read online includes, quote, fake or false information with the deliberate goal to, quote, confuse. The poll of 3,000 people across the U.S. found that 76% of respondents are concerned that they are reading misleading information online about the presidential election. Black Americans, in particular, are also disproportionately more likely to get their news from social media, the Free Press survey found. OSA said there is nothing new about increased disinformation and misinformation ahead of recent presidential elections. In 2016, Russia set out to interfere with the election by spreading propaganda on social media, hacking into campaigns, and probing state voter databases, according to a Senate report. In 2020, there were coordinated efforts to deter Black voters from going to the polls more systematically, including conservative activists making more than 1,000 fake robocalls to detract Detroit voters who are overwhelmingly Black from voting by mail. And to be totally honest, the whole making robocalls to detract voters from voting by mail, Um, this is my first time hearing about that. I don't think that happened, to be very honest. It continues to say, today, however, Osa said, the way disinformation is presented to a population with outsized political power and influence continues to be more sophisticated. Black Americans are projected to account for 14% of eligible voters in November and have a higher turnout rate than Latino voters, despite making up a lower share of the US population. Now, I've been saying this for the longest. They were all like, well, black and Latino voters, and we got to do something to get black and Latino voters. And I've been saying, this is why this channel is the source. I've been saying Latino voters, they don't really count like that. They don't really count like that. Black voters make up a higher percentage of the turnout when it comes to election votes than Latinos do. And we control the swing states, not Latinos. The Latino voters do not control the swing states. We do. We are the ones who control that. And I've been saying that. Now they're finally telling the truth on now. They're finally conceding to what I've been saying. Continuing, recent outreach to black voters by Biden and former President Donald Trump is evidence of an emphasis on capturing the demographic. The latest NBC News poll found that 2 of 3 black voters age 18 to 49 support Biden, as well as 88% of older black voters. Now, just take with a grain of salt. They're saying that of the people who support voting for Biden or Trump. And this is something that I've been saying. When you ask the average black American, who would they pick of between Biden and Trump? A lot of them, if the ones who do pick between Biden and Trump, pick Biden. Majority of the ones who do pick between Biden and Trump pick Biden, and that's true. But the thing is, it's a growing number of people who are saying, I don't care for either of them. So what they're trying to do is they're cherry picking the data, and they're trying to create this narrative by saying, well, most of black Americans between Biden and Trump will pick Biden, but they're dismissing, they're deliberately omitting the huge and growing population of black Americans who are saying, screw both of them. I don't care for either one of them. They're deliberately omitting those to make the narrative seem as if, well, most of black America really loves Biden. So don't fall for their disinformation. And then it says, Trump, meanwhile, has gained support from 1 in 4 young black voters ahead of this year's election and 6% of older black voters, according to the NBC News poll, in an election in which every minor change in voting patterns in battleground states could decide the race. By comparison, in 2020, no less than 78% of black voters chose Biden, according to exit polling data. But not all experts believe disinformation efforts have substantial influence now or will have it in the future. Dean Phelan, a presidential professor of communication at the University of Pennsylvania and an expert in digital politics, remain hesitant about overstating how deep misinformation runs within the black community. Quote, it is incredibly difficult to draw a straight line between any kind of communication and the kinds of attitudinal and behavioral changes that people would like communication to have, he said. It is very hard to change people's minds and their behavior in substantial ways from what they're already doing. However, Phelan acknowledged that even a slight change in behavior could tip the race to Biden or Trump. Quote, the vast majority of people who consume disinformation is a small group of people, but in a close election, a small group of people can be significant to at least potentially sway the election one way or another, he said. This is them trying to put us in a list. This is them trying to let us know these are the people who have the streets. This is the grassroots. This is the source that the grassroots come to get their information. So these are the people we need to look out for. These are the people we need to shadow ban. These are the people we need to mess up their channels, mess up their live streams, mess up their videos and stuff like that. So when you guys are watching and you see all of a sudden everything's cool, and then next thing you know, it's just glitching and lagging, or it kicks us off. You see this happen all of the time. People don't get their notifications. Videos get blocked, and even though you're following the guideline rules and everything like that, we gotta walk on this thin ice all of the time, because they're always trying to do something to terminate our channels or to lessen the impact that our channels have, the influence that our channels have, because they know that we're giving accurate and authentic information. We have authenticity and they don't. They want Biden to be in the White House again. They know if people keep finding out the truth, if people keep doing their own research, we're not misinforming, disinforming anybody. These are independent Black people who are saying, you know what, let me go out and find some research myself. Let me research this myself. Let me research who Biden is and the work he's done myself, instead of just believing what NBC says or what CNN says. Let me go through multiple different channels and multiple different sources and hear multiple different perspectives. And then I will determine who's the most accurate based off of what I know to be true. And they're coming here, they're coming to the source because they know for a fact this is where accurate information, and only accurate information, is spread. This is that. So this is them trying to warn people like, hey, y'all, them FBAs over there, they're spreading misinformation. They're the reason why a lot of Black voters are saying, I don't know, I might vote for the couch this election. They're the reason. That's why they said voter apathy. This is something that we've been saying for the longest time. They're panicking right now, even though they're saying that, well, this is only a small group. Oh, no. Because if it was only a small group, they wouldn't have bothered even making this. If they think we didn't have significant influence, they wouldn't have even bothered making this. Now, of course, they included Fresh and Fit and all that. They don't matter. But they wouldn't have bothered making this if we did not have a decent influence that shifts the tide, not only a decent size influence, but a growing influence. When you see rallies and thousands of people show up to these rallies, and we give out truth and we give out accurate information at these rallies, this is the type of stuff that they're worried about. I want you to keep in mind that this article came very shortly after the rally for reparations. That can't be dismissed. You have to note that when you see rallies for reparations and then you see that thousands of people show up to that makes them afraid. It makes them afraid because they understand who has the ear of the grassroots, and that's this. We do. We are spreading accurate information on Joe Biden, on Donald Trump, because we're not out here sitting up there waving the Trump flag or wearing a MAGA hat or anything like that. We're spreading accurate information across both sides of the political board. Everything we have, accurate. We're not leaning to the Democrats or leaning to the Republicans or anything like that. We're leaning to Black people. We care about Black empowerment. We're Black first over here. We're Black first all day long over here. And all we care about is Black people, and that's all we're doing. Trying to dismantle the system of white supremacy. That's all we're doing. And you can't disprove anything we're saying because we're backing up everything that we say. Everything we say. So with this information, I want you to know they made this because they're worried that the source is accurate. They're worried that what you're listening to is very accurate. They're afraid of this channel right here. They're panicking over there. They're panicking. Brothers and sisters, I want to know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. What do you think about their disinformation, misinformation? What do you think about the people that they had on their list? Let me know that in the comment section below. You can follow me on my various social media platforms, which is Afro Elite on Instagram and The Afro Elite on Twitter, and the links to both of those are in the description below. Also, please do not forget to hit that like button. That's very important so we can spread accurate information. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. That tremendously helps the reach and the growth of the source, this channel, to spread accurate information to the people. Thank you very much. Now, with that being said, B1 salute to every single last one of you all, and you all have a good one.